I'd like to call to order, please, the Hampstead Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. May we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Sharon Callahan.
Here.
Lou Conyer.
Here.
Charlie Obermeyer.
Here.
Deborah Painter.
Here.
And Barb Yeager.
Here. The public is advised that members of the Hampstead Town Council may be present and in attendance at this meeting. All persons are reminded that this session is being recorded on tape as required by law for the preservation of records and are asked when providing comment to give their name and address. All persons in attendance are requested to print their name and address and affiliation on the sign-in sheet at the front of the room. First on the agenda, minutes approval of meeting January 24th, 2024. May I have approval for the minutes of the regular meeting?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we need an approval of the minutes approval for the same date, January 24th, 24, for the public hearing. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I second it.
Any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
So approved. Zoning administrator update.
All righty. Just a few things. Just to give you an update on the Antietam broadband project. Town staff were actually meeting with them tomorrow and their contractor. It's the official kickoff of their high-speed fiber project. I would expect they will probably begin installing underground lines in the next month or so. The first neighborhood to have the lines installed will be the Westwood Park development, and Antietam should be reaching out to all residents of Westwood Park in the very near future, probably in the next week. They'll be hanging doors. I think they may actually send letters to every resident also, just explaining the process, what they're doing, and what the project is and what the final product will be. And that will be available at every house in Hampstead at the end. The water system modernization and centralization project. The engineering process is well underway for the water system project. You may have seen, or can see coming up, surveying crews around town. They're plotting the course for the new water pipelines, which will go throughout the town from the wells to the new water treatment facilities, and along with specking the locations of the new water treatment facilities. HDR Engineering and GMB Engineering are working on the site plans for the pipelines and the treatment plants. The pipelines section of the plan will not require the approval of this commission. It's simply grading permits through the county. But the treatment facilities will need a full site plan approval of this commission. So what we discussed a little, I said last month that I'd like to do something before it gets here. So I figure next month we'll have a discussion about the 4 locations where these new water treatment facilities will go, along with a layout of the piping. Sort of just give you an overview of the entire project. So when it gets here, you sort of have a better understanding of all the moving parts. The actual construction, the piping will start first, and that has to begin by the end of this year. That's one of the things that's in the grant that we received. The construction has to start by December of 2024, and then the entire project is expected to be completed by December of 2026. The only other thing we have ongoing discussions all the time with developers. We've got a couple right now that are going pretty in depth. One of those projects, yesterday, they actually applied for a pre-submittal meeting with development review in the town. That's like the precursor to submitting a formal site plan to the county and to the town. So what it is, it's for the Weiss Gas and Go in Robertsfield Shopping Center. It'll be built on that grass pad right next to the Farmers and Merchants Bank. I would actually expect them to introduce their plan to this commission in March or April. So first glance, there's no issues with it. It applies to town code, conforms to the town code, the zoning, everything like that. So that should be here in March or April. And that's it.
Any discussion or comments? Then we'll move ahead. Next on the agenda, approval of zoning certificate, Pivot Energy Solar Panel Installation Ground Equipment, 1400 Panther Drive. Good evening.
How are you?
Hello
Great,
again.
how are you?
May I have your name, please?
Yeah, Barry Mignot, I'm with Pivot Energy Director, and I'm superintendent for the ground mounted for the rooftop solar array at
Pantherplex. So as you can see, Remy sent over some new renderings, and also on the plan, they shifted the location of the ground of the where the ground-mounted equipment would go. Remy, do you want to use this and point out exactly where the move was?
So originally, I believe the equipment was at, this old location closer to the entrance. Per the request of, the staff, you guys, we moved it about 50 yards closer to the building and out of that entryway. And then also added in the tree line buffer recommended by Carroll County, and Jonathan Bowman and his team.
So Jonathan, over the county?
Yes, so he
Yes.
sent over, so there is no official, rulings for community solar ground mounted equipment buffer.
Right.
So we're following the rulings for HVAC and dumpster equipment.
Perfect.
So this is back where
Near the police,
the sheriff's,
closer to the,
where
police.
their vehicles are, not where
Correct.
their entrance is.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, how it sits sort of down there.
And from this third drawing, I assume they're gonna do the shrubs,
Correct.
those,
Right.
okay. The
So
natural.
those aren't exactly
Right,
to what the code is, that
Right.
was just
Right.
rendering.
A rendering, yeah.
yeah.
But the shrubs will be there to help
Correct.
screen it.
Correct, they have.
Natural screening. yeah.
And Jim, you had recommended when we met last month to comply with the landscaping, regulations of the county, and that's what that was the,
That's what I asked, they
Yeah,
did talk to
okay.
Jonathan Bowman, who
Okay.
runs landscaping for the county. And so, as he said, there's a landscaping manual that Carroll County has that basically, in almost every situation, whether it's dumpsters, whether it's HVAC, whether it's a commercial building up against a residential property, they have different code regulations for screening. And so, since there is not one for ground-mounted solar equipment, next closest thing would be HVAC equipment. So, yeah, that's exactly what they did.
and as you said, then the trees that were there, they may not be the ones that you eventually put in?
The ones that are in the picture may
Right.
not be the ones that are eventually put in,
Because right now, they're very low, but if those are Leland cypresses, they're gonna grow huge
No,
yeah.
eventually, right?
I have the code.
What does that call it, a natural
I do,
it's called landscape screening.
landscape?
page 18. So, page 19 of this, dumpster and ground mount equipment, class A screen required for dumpsters and ground mount HVAC equipment. The linear square footage, let's call it 15 feet off the rights of adjacent residential, zones. This is, very far from any
Right.
residential zone, so we'll use the allotted land. It doesn't say which shrubs we need to use, but there are, suggestions of major deciduous trees,
Did they give
evergreens and shrubs.
a scale of the shrubs that they like how big they are?
Not in the suggested picture, but
But if they name specific ones,
we'll
then
follow that.
they'll, yeah,
Correct.
okay.
I don't think that they give sizes, but basically it's a mixture of, say, like something along the lines of arborvitae, along with some smaller growing shrubs.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the tallest one, if I'm reading this correctly, is about 8 feet?
It's like 10, I think.
Follow this piece of equipment.
Yeah, piece of equipment on that. Just trying to get an idea of the total,
Circumference or diameter of what they're doing.
yeah, the total area of this.
It was like 10 by 40, and then I think it was like 8 or 10 feet high.
Oh, yeah, here's
So-
10. No,
Here they are.
How accurate is this rendering to scale? I know they're
this
sometimes
way,
off a little bit,
7 by
but you know, just looking at like, because I think looking at the windows in the back and stuff, is that,
I want to say
Relative.
fairly close, relatively close.
Yeah, 7'7".
You know, it is really just three pieces of
Yeah,
equipment.
yeah.
It's the spacing in between them that takes up the length
Yeah.
of grounding.
I do have one question. Actually, I probably have more than one, but the original location rendering, the first one, has a fence around the equipment. And then when the alternative location we proposed, the fence is not there. Will the fence be there or the fence won't be there?
That was designed by the renderer, but there was no suggestion of moving a fence. We can put up a fence for the community.
I was just
almost
thinking that
proposed
might-
we would do that.
It might affect the landscaping though, because if you have a fence, like a chain link fence there, you have more that you want to shield. If it was like a green fence, maybe less. So those plants, depending upon whether the fence is there or not, might need to be selected based on fence or no fence. That's all, but, so there's no specific plan right now to have the fence, I think is what you said.
Well, typically our team likes fencing screens just to keep the public out, especially when we have something so near to, where children would be,
So it probably will be there, more than likely.
most likely.
Okay.
But kind of by.
Yeah, so that just kind of changes what you're screening a little bit more, because you want to cover a chain link fence a little bit too, just for aesthetics, but that's my only.
Where's the fencing?
In the original
Can't even see
rendering,
it.
says
Oh, now I,
yellow
see. Okay,
line.
It's hard to see.
I can hardly
is
see
there
it.
anything, Jim, in the Carroll
On the
County, I know they have some stuff,
Take
I
a
mean,
look
obviously,
at the
like
vision test
guiding
today.
Oh,
the
yes,
trees
there
and
is.
shrubs and stuff, is there anything about guidance towards type of fencing in this stuff?
Fencing, no.
Okay.
No.
I mean, we don't have to put a fence, we just do it so the public wouldn't have access to it. That
Yeah.
typically we do like fires.
I like
fires
I like the screening. I think the concern is if it's gonna be, like an 8-foot chain link fence,
Then you need more
then it's
screening.
gonna look a little bit like a prison yard.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that,
Sorry.
looks like a prison, yeah,
Um,
not that I've seen one.
But yeah, if there is gonna be a fence, to have it be, a little bit,
Thank you.
matching the landscape and kind of being a little bit more architecturally
Understood.
pleasing.
Those are,
Yeah.
I think those are easy fixes for us to be able to.
Yeah, I think that is the easy part, because we're nitpicking that
We
now,
are
but
totally,
the
yes.
move, it's
Yeah,
much
that was
better,
fine, and we
thank
were
you.
able to solve for it. I think we spoke to BG&E, in between the time of that, us submitting this and the previous hearing. We spoke to BG&E about 3 times, and try to understand what the upgrades are. We expect for them to come back with our, final interconnection costs, within the next, 45 to 60 days. But I don't see, much of a change with that extra run. It's gonna just cost us additional conduit run on our side, but from the interconnection standpoint, it won't hurt our economics.
And I do appreciate you going back to the drawing board. I know, sometimes it's a pain, but we do appreciate
I
it.
think the chain link fence, to be honest, that's an easy solve for us. So if we don't need it, we can lock it up other ways, and if we do it, it's easy for us to screen. I don't think we'll have, a 10-foot fence there, to be honest.
So you put the fence up there, it'd be easy for you to landscape screen around the outside of that. Yeah.
So using the fence and the landscape screening, is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Okay.
You probably just need more landscaping though if you have the chain link fence there. If you don't have the fence, then you probably don't have to have quite as many tall things.
But I think the
that's-
fence is a good idea to keep people out.
I agree with you, yeah, very much so.
Are you familiar with arborvitae? It's used a lot in screening processes. It's not an expensive plant. I mean, if something like that is along the lines of what you're looking
Yeah.
for, right?
Yeah.
If you want to take a look at this.
The only thing is they'd have to get them a decent size when they get them because they're slow growing.
They happen to be a faster growing
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
evergreen.
the ones we
Yeah.
had were slow growing.
The ones I had were not.
So we've used some of those on some of our ground mounted sites. Those were required in previous counties, like when we did things in West Maryland. I'm almost certain that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, so I think that's what you guys are looking for, is something like that with some
I
height
agree.
that will cover the fence also.
And they grow fast, and you want the green variety and not the golden variety.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
We won't get into that.
Their neighbor's house, they're about 20 feet.
Because the
20 feet
gold
tall
ones
after
look
20
like they're
years.
sick
So-
when they're
That's what
growing, and
mine
they're
were,
not.
but they started at like 8 and they were there
And
in
people
like
will
5
call and
years.
complain, what's wrong with the shrubs?
Maybe ours just don't get enough sun.
And you can't see through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the ones, yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yes, thank you for going back. I'm sure it wasn't, it's not always easy going to get something like that done.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
No.
Can we move forward then for an approval? Okay,
I mean, the way you could do it is you could approve it with the condition that a fence and a arborvitae landscape screening is added to the plan.
so we'll have an approval of the zoning certificate for Pivot Energy Solar Panel installation ground equipment, 1400 Panther Drive, with chain links, or fencing rather, and arborvitae evergreens to screen the same. May I have a motion?
Can I just add one thing? In combination with some of the other things, like low bushes too, not just one solid screen? Yes, no?
You can do that, but my only thing is if you do that, you'll be able to see over top of the bit small ones.
So you're talking about just a straight line? Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to
I
clarify
think,
that.
I think the arborvitae alone, once they get going and fill in, they're gonna make their own fence.
Yeah.
Okay.
They will. So, again, an approval of the zoning certificate, Pivot Energy Solar Panel installation, ground equipment, 1400 Panther Drive, with landscaping and fencing, arborvitae plants to be used. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve?
And a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got that out.
That's a mouthful. Good one. Way to go, Sharon.
Okay. Approval next of Hampstead Concept Plan, S 220003. Good evening.
Aaron Valentine, Carroll County Services, seeking concept approval for the Hampstead.
So the concept plan, when it comes to the town, of course, has to be reviewed by all the Carroll County bureaus, simply because we rely on them because we don't have the staff or the experience to do all those. So as they come in, as you see in your pack, there is all copies of all the approval letters from all the different county bureaus. So they've achieved that. That's one of the requirements. And then, of course, the other major requirement with the town is a adequate facility study, which we did last February, back in February of 2023. And basically, it goes through and it looks at the impact it could have on every town, public service or facility. And there was no impact that this project will not impact any of those in a negative way. In addition, it conforms to all the Town of Hampstead comprehensive plan, the Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan. So they have basically checked all the boxes on the concept plan.
Yeah, so I think for me, and Deb pointed this out to me, the one thing I want to go to is the last page, which shows the picture rendering, or artist rendering. It's supposed to be in Hampstead, but it says Hans of Westminster.
Yeah, we'll update that.
Yes.
So what were you gonna update it to?
I assume Hans of Hampstead.
Hans of Hampstead?
Well,
Or-
no, it's, we're changing the sign on the building. I'm changing the rendering to the new logo.
What, I'm just asking, what is the new logo?
What
then?
is it? Yeah.
Drum roll, please.
Pardon?
Hans Family Meats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just would, I mean, I showed it to my wife just to say, see anything wrong with this? And she says, it says Hans of Westminster, so as long as that's changed, we're
Our
okay.
signs and stuff will just say Hans, there won't be.
Okay.
Yeah, That's the most anticipated question with this project.
Just glad you guys are back.
Yeah.
I've been mentioning it to people every time I drive past in the car, that's where the pork and beans restaurant's and factory.
That's what I
and
thought,
facility.
just pork and beans.
I'm more excited about having breakfast.
You never know.
Yeah.
I saw this picture and I got hungry. Okay. Are there questions about anything that you've seen or concerns?
Okay, just flipping through real quick. This looks mighty flat. I mean, very flat. Like, is it truly that flat?
You'll see that there's microbiome facilities and everything kind of drains away from the building. There's microbiome facilities, stormwater management, and they drain to a larger facility on the ground.
Okay.
It's
Okay, but
not quite as flat as it seems.
in the front, though, it's expected to be graded like that, where the parking lot is perfectly level with the building, which is also sitting at that same.
Generally, yes.
Any other discussion or questions about the plans you have in front of you?
And if you guys give the approval tonight, the next step for them will be basically the final plan, where they will come back to the county and to the town with a brand-new set of plans, the final plan that will be much more intense than this, and will have much more detail to the actual finished product. And that will go through the similar process of an introduction, a public hearing, and then eventually an approval.
Well, but this is the concept plan, not
This is
the
concept,
final.
correct, yes.
Do you, this is gonna be a silly question, but, do you anticipate any fencing, not like the fencing we're talking with, the screening, but any fencing around the parking lots or around the backside of the building or anything like that?
Yeah, so yeah, they were talking about adding fencing.
So what sort of, I mean, I know you'll probably need fencing around the stormwater management, thing that you have there, but what about in the overall, the reason why I'm asking is, the, Ridge Engineering, they have fencing on their retaining walls, and it's kind of like a nice nod to Carroll County country life, because it looks like a split rail fence, but it's not really. And I was just going to say, if you anticipate fencing on this project, maybe go and take a look at theirs, because if it's not serving anything other than being a defining line, it's really tasteful, but that's it, but that might come later, so.
We'll talk about it and
Yeah.
look at it.
Any other comments?
Wasn't originally the plan was to do kind of 2 phases to this building? Is that off the table now, or is the building now just the original?
We're still working through the phases out
Okay.
there. And as right now, it's just one big building, and we're designing it as if the building's gonna go all at once.
Oh, okay.
But we may work in actual phases.
Okay.
Does that have any impact on us?
I'm assuming it's gonna be in 2 phases, correct? Yes, it will be in 2 phases.
I don't think it affects us, because it's just a concept
Correct.
plan at the
Correct.
time.
Yep.
so.
I was more curious and
Yeah.
impressed that I remembered that
No,
from a year ago. So I had to say it out loud.
Carol,
Do my part.
Are you all ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments? Then if not, we need an approval of Hampstead Concept Plan, S22003. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the concept plan of Hans.
And may
220003.
I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Then we have an approval of Hampstead Concept Plan, S22003. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Hampstead, almost. Okay, next on the agenda, introduction of Chapter 8 of the Hampstead Community Comprehensive Plan, Housing and Community Design.
Well, so anyone that thinks that Hans has taken a long time, the comprehensive plan,
How many more chapters? Because you know I'll be asked.
I think there's 2. We're getting there. Anyway, what we have here is Chapter 8 and this deals with housing and community design. We had it almost completed probably 6 months ago, and then I was made aware by Andrew of a recently passed piece of legislation, House Bill 90, that we needed to now basically address affirmatively furthering fair housing. So that held us up for a little bit, since there was no other comprehensive plans done that had that in it. We were the first, so it was something new we had to tackle, but we now have. So basically, we're giving you this month. Take home, read it, know it, and then in a month we'll come back and we can discuss and you can give your input. How's that sound?
It sounds good to me.
Sounds fantastic.
I mean, it does look, very up to date, right? So you've got modern pictures in here and everything else. Just out of curiosity, it says the current conditions, what were those statistics as of, right? Because it includes the 2020 census information.
Correct. So
So the reports, I mean, what's the period that it covered? Because it was out of context. I couldn't really tell.
I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to.
So on the very front page, it says current conditions,
Okay.
right? You it doesn't really say these are current conditions as of whatever. So this is going to go into
It is
the 2020 comprehensive plan, right?
Correct. This is as of today. And nothing has changed, I don't think, since.
I'm just saying, I think it would be helpful to have in the document itself that, this is.
As of
current conditions
2020 or something.
As of year,
Okay.
right? Whatever,
Yeah,
something like that.
I
As you look
agree.
through here, and it has a bunch of different dates, 2020, 2000, 2010, 2020. So I assumed it was as of 2020, but
It's 2023.
2023.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Good point.
But I will say, reading this, the housing statistics, the condominiums under construction at the time, Westwood Park, and the current housing, this is pretty interesting reading, especially with what's going on in,
Yeah, you look at 2000 versus, or older versus now.
yeah.
There's some pretty dramatic changes in not only the number of dwelling units, but the type of dwelling units in
Yeah,
town.
it has been.
Yeah, and you mentioned this new statute, new law in a plan. So what sort of things can you do to adhere to that plan? I mean, you don't control the housing market in town, but you can dictate as the town can of,
That's where we have our zoning regulations.
you can rezone or whatever you need to in order to make it more dense or add more units.
We can, it's not an easy process to rezone at all.
Right.
To rezone a property, you need to prove that there's an error in the current zoning or that there's been a dramatic change in the neighborhood since the last zoning on that property was placed. So we can talk about that. How about next month? And I'll do
Yeah.
some homework into exactly how to answer that
It just
for
seemed
you.
like it really, again, it seems like a tall task, right? It's great to put the numbers there, but to then execute on some law or regulations is completely different.
The
kettle of fish.
affirmatively furthering fair housing, otherwise known as AFFH, we struggled with that,
Yeah,
and
I bet.
so
It's hard to define affordable housing units, I mean,
affordable. It's in there. There's the definitions of affordable, the
Right.
definitions of workforce housing. It's all in there, and I think you'll probably be surprised at the amount of each we have here in Hampstead.
Oh, it is, I didn't.
So that's what also makes it difficult is, fair housing versus affordable housing. How do those definitions play off each other and how do they interact?
Well, there's a problem you have, is that some would say that when we talk about affordable housing, and then adjustments are made to make that housing affordable, then you have another problem, which is the fair housing and discrimination. And there's a bigger issue here than is like to be talked about, which is the attitudes, which are very difficult to change. I think we all know that. When there's a confusion and we hear between affordable housing and fair housing, and that can become complex in order to be able to make this work. So that takes time. And it's also a difficult thing to spell out. You know, everything else we do here, you have a drawing and you have a plan for it, and you look at the plan and you question the plan, and we can see it. But the fair housing, what we're talking about here on the other side of it is the housing fair and accessible for people with disabilities? It isn't always whether they're black, white, green, or yellow. It could be other types of problems that human beings might have. So I think this is rather interesting, and it's not so easy to put it in words here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense.
So if you don't talk about it, then nobody talks about it, then it becomes, shh, well, I'm a big mouth, I talk about it, so forgive me. So I just want to go on record as saying that I really believe this is what we intend, to make it affordable and to make it fair.
Couldn't have said it better.
Thank you. So, is there any more discussion about the introduction of Chapter 8? I guess that means no, then we're going to move on then. Next on the agenda, approval of Hampstead information for the 2023 Carroll County Department of Planning Annual Report.
So the annual report, which we do every year, we put together the municipal information, the Hampstead information, that then we will pass on to Mr. Gray, and he will put into the Carroll County annual planning report, along with all the other municipalities and the county projects and the county report. So basically, I gave you this last month, and this is filled out with all the information that, all the actions that were taken by this commission or the town council in the last year pertaining to either zoning or planning, and to these exact questions they ask. So real quick, we passed one resolution pertaining to this, basically, which was the growth area amendment. And then as far as subdivisions and site plan approvals, residential, Melanie Acres received final approval last year. That was it. No other site plans were brought in. There was a couple text amendments, a couple ordinances where we made changes to the business local, business general, and also parking requirements. And then the only other thing I think was the improvements we did to two parks, which was Chief Sites Park and Sugar Maple Park, and some new equipment that we installed. And that's what we accomplished in 2023 in the town of Hampstead, as far as what they're looking for a planning report.
I think we did a great job. And I love the parks and the signage that we did. I think it looks wonderful. Any comments about that? Anyone? Then we can move ahead with an approval of the Hampstead information for 2023 Carroll County Department of Planning Annual Report. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Then the approval is granted for the Hampstead Information 2023 Carroll County Department of Planning Annual Report. Carroll County Department of Planning update.
I'm sorry, Sharon, you said first and second, but did you ask for an approval from everybody?
I thought I did. I'm sorry. May we have an approval then? We had a first and a second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
All in favor, thank you.
Yeah. Aye.
Thank you, thank you. Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right. Just to give you a little synopsis for this month's report. First, the Bureau of Comprehensive Planning. We are accepting applications for the 2024 Spring Amendment to the Water and Sewer Master Plan. Also, just an update on the housing study. as you know, the economic development and land use study that I've been mentioning for about the last year and a half, that has come to a close. The next study on the list to make up the larger, backbone for the county master plan is the housing study. So this study will reflect the unique housing conditions and needs in each of Carroll County's municipalities, as well as the unincorporated areas. Also, the Bureau has been working with municipalities and the consultant to finalize the initial details and for future collaboration and coordinating a community needs assessments meetings. And Jim, I talked to you about that. And these meetings, these community assessment meetings, are proposed to be in or near all 8 municipalities in the April or early May timeframe. The county will, and the county consultants, which is Mosaic Community Planning, will facilitate the meeting, provide materials and supplies. But as I mentioned to Jim, the only request of the town would be to help find a place to host the meeting. And also, once we get a schedule for these meetings, the Bureau of Comp Planning will provide a meeting flyer and promotional materials, and we ask the town to provide that to the citizens to see if, try to get people to come out to the meetings. While it won't be necessary to have town staff attend the meetings, we do hope that you or anyone else come to the meetings to engage in meaningful discussion with housing needs and to hear input from you and as many residents as possible in the town of Hampstead. And the study is currently planned to be completed in the fall. Also, just for the annual report, thank you so much for approving the annual report. I will get the letter from you, and then we will get that consolidate that with the rest of the other 7 municipalities in the county and send to Maryland Department of Planning before that July 1st deadline. So that is all I have today. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Is there any other business? Any public comment? No public. Then may we have a motion, please, to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor? So adjourned. Thank you. These were all the signed things.